Hi second graders, it's Miss Rayborn here. So today I've gathered together my sketchbook and a pencil and eraser. If you would like to have some crayons with you, you could do that as well if you decide you'd like to add color to your drawing. The last week we were together, we did a little virtual field trip where you did some drawing of plants in the Paris Botanical Garden. Miss Rayborn left the virtual field trip in this week's slideshow because several people requested that I leave it in again. So on the next slide down, the next two slides down actually, the virtual field trip from last week is there. Feel free to revisit that, or if you didn't have a chance to do it the first time, it's still there for you. Today we're going to do some drawing in our sketchbook and we're going to practice something called foreground, middle ground, and background. So you're just going to open up to a blank page in your sketchbook. And Miss Rayborn is going to show you that foreground, middle ground, and background are different parts on your page. So, for example, if I was to divide my piece of paper into about thirds, so I drew kind of a dashed line and I'm making it kind of dark because I'm hoping that you'll be able to see it. And then I had another one here because I'm trying to divide my paper into three parts. 1, 2, 3. I would have the foreground here, the middle ground here, and the background here. So let's talk about why they're called that and what they are. So here, way down in the front, is called the foreground. Notice how foreground sounds a little bit like front. The thing that's important about the foreground is that things in the foreground are the biggest. I'm going to even write it big. Things might be going off the page. They might be super big, right? The other thing is that there's lots of details in the foreground. Lots of details in the foreground because it's very close to you. It's very close to the viewer. It's near the bottom of the page. Way back here is the background, right? So its name kind of helps us remember where it goes. Now I wrote background small because things in the background are the smallest, right? And when we're thinking about detail, we would say almost no details. When you're way far away, like this, way back in the background, it's very difficult to see details. Let me talk to you about what that might mean. This line right here that divides the foreground or the middle ground and the background is the horizon line. If I make this a solid line, this line right here is called the horizon line. And the horizon line is where the ground right here and the sky touch each other, right? Now you've probably looked off in the distance before and seen at the edge of the ground where the sky is getting close, maybe something like a tree. And the tree was really tiny, right? Not a lot of details to the tree and it was very small. And your eye understood that it's not because it's the world's tiniest tree. It's because that tree is very far away from you, right? It's not that the tree is super tiny, it's just very far away. Think about if you've ever been in an airplane before, how sometimes buildings and cars look like little ants down there. We know that the cars are not actually that small, we're just very far away from them, which is why they are much smaller. So foreground in the front or near the bottom, background in the back or near the top, right here, you guessed it, is called the middle ground. Now, if things in the foreground are the biggest and they have lots of details, and things in the background are the smallest and they have almost no details, you might be guessing that things in the middle ground are sort of medium sized, right? Absolutely, medium sized. And also, they have sort of medium amounts of details, meaning there's more details than where. So they have more than back here, but less than down here, okay? So things in the foreground are the biggest, they have a lot of detail. Middle ground, medium size, medium amount of detail. The background is above the horizon line and things here are very small. There's almost no detail at all. This whole tree right here is really just a tree trunk and sort of a bush kind of looking top, even though we know that a tree has all different kinds of limbs and a tree trunk and individual leaves, but we can't see those because they're very far away from us. It just kind of looks like a blob way far away. So let's talk about and move to a new piece of paper, how we can make this work in our sketchbook if we're doing a drawing. So Miss Rayborn is going to draw really kind of lightly for myself a foreground and a middle ground line. Now this one we said way back here would be my horizon line. That's where the ground and the sky touch each other. So if I was going to draw something, and I'm going to repeat the same thing in the foreground, middle ground, background, so that you can see that it gets smaller as it goes back. So I'm thinking I'm going to start with a pig. I don't know why, I just feel like drawing a pig today. So I'm going to start in the middle ground because that way I'll know what to make bigger and what to make smaller. So here in the middle ground, I'm going to draw, here's my pig's body, here's my pig's head, here's my pig's nose, here's some pig eyes, maybe some pig legs, and maybe you can see a little bit of my pig's tail. Okay, so not a ton of details on my pig. It's kind of medium sized, right? You might even, if you didn't see it being pink like this, you might even think to yourself, I don't know, that could be a dog. It could be so many different things because it doesn't have tons of details on it because it's medium sized in the middle ground, medium details, right? So if this is my medium sized pig, I need to draw one in the foreground that is much bigger. It might even be going off the page. So I'm going to do something a little bit silly. Watch what I'm going to do. My pig is going to be so close to me. Look, this is the head of my pig. It's so close, in fact. Look, there's his nose. That he's going off the edge. Now, I'm going to give this pig a lot of details because this pig is super, super close to me. I can see this little pig's nostrils. Its nose is sort of going off the edge of my paper, and I need it to be nice and dark so I can see. This pig might even have some little piggy eyelashes or eyebrows. Maybe it would even have some little hairs on its head. Now, when I start to add color to this particular pig might have more options for colors and more details than the other one. I would be able to see the whites of the eyes of this pig because this pig, as you can see, is very close to me. It might look like almost like Miss Rayborn has dogs, and sometimes when we have food, they get really close to us and they look up at us with their sweet little eyes because they just really want us to give them some kind of yummy treat. So this one is really close to me. Can you tell how close that pig is? Also, because it's so close, it might have more details. So for example, I might color in the dark part of the eyes. I might do some outlining on this pig because this pig, I told you, is super, super close to me. So I would be able to see all the little details of this pig. I would be able to see this little pig's wispy little hairs. I would be able to see the details on this pig. So even when I'm coloring it, I'm adding quite a bit more detail. Also thinking that I might add a little extra pink to this pig and make it a little bit more detailed. Maybe the insides of this pig's ears might be a darker, deeper color because again, I'm giving this little pig lots and lots and lots of details because this little pig is very, very close to me because this pig is in the foreground. And we said in the foreground, things are the biggest and they might be going off the page. I can only see this little pig's head, right? I can't even see the rest of its body because it's so close to me. It also has lots of details, right? Because it's very, very, very close, okay? Now here's my medium-sized pig. You can tell there's enough of a difference between this size pig and this size pig that I know that this pig is much closer to me than this one. Now, what about way off in the distance? Say I've got some trees off in the distance. I could even have a barn back here or something like that. What if I had a little pig way out here? Now, I don't think you're going to see many details about this pig. It's probably not even going to be hard to tell if this little pig has like ears, maybe they're teeny tiny, maybe it has a tiny little sprig of a tail. It almost might look like a little pink blob way back there in the distance because I am in the background. And we learned that things in the background are the smallest. I'm even going to write it small, right? Also, they have almost no detail. This little pig back here looks kind of like a little blob, right? I don't see any eyes. I don't see a nose. I don't see any details because this pig is the farthest one away. It's very far away. This pig in the foreground is way up close, lots of details, biggest going off the page. Medium-sized pig right here has less details and he's definitely smaller than this one. And the pig in the background way back here is very teeny tiny, almost no details at all. One of the only ways that I know that it's a pig is because it's pink like these other two pigs that I've already drawn. So I want you to try drawing something foreground, middle ground, and background in your sketchbook. Try drawing the same thing. Like Miss Rayborn repeated a pig, a pig, a pig. It can be very difficult if you try to do this with different objects, like a horse and a pig and a cow. Try practicing for the first time with the same thing, whatever it happens to be. These could be trees, they could be rocket ships, they could be fire trucks, they could be mermaids. It's totally up to you what you decide to draw. But in the foreground, it's the biggest with the most amount of detail. Middle ground, medium size, medium amount of detail. I actually like to start here so that I know how to make it bigger and how to make it smaller. In the background, back on the horizon line, super tiny, almost no details at all. This little pig kind of even just looks like a little blob. So in your sketchbook, I want you to try out drawing something for me in the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. And when you're finished, you get to turn it in Schoology. We're going to have a video where you can hold it up and show me how you made the thing in your foreground the biggest with the most detail, middle ground, medium size, medium detail, background, little size, almost kind of tiny and almost no details. So when you're finished with your practice drawing in your sketchbook, head back to Schoology so that you can turn in your drawing and I can see how you're doing. Bye for now.